over to America, where there is a fresh scandal that's gripping the Biden administration. Hackers claim to have broken into the iCloud of Hunter Biden, the president's son. The footage, which claims to be associated with that hack, is disturbing and appears to show Hunter Biden weighing and preparing crack. Now, why is this news, you might ask? Hunter is his own man and hacking is illegal. Very true. The problem isn't with Hunter per se or with an endorsement of hacking. If you break the law, you should be punished to the fullest extent of the law. And that's why this is so newsworthy. Take a listen to a young Joe Biden speaking about the law.
If you have a piece of crack cocaine no bigger than this quarter that I'm holding in my hand, 1/4 of $1, we passed a law through the leadership of Senator Thurmond and myself and others, a law that says if you're caught with that, you go to jail for 5 years. You get no probation. You get nothing other than 5 years in jail. Judge doesn't have a choice.
Joe Biden paved his political career as a tough-on-drugs legislator who introduced laws specifically about drug users. Now, I don't happen to think Hunter Biden should be thrown in jail for possessing crack, but Joe Biden has publicly, politically, and legislatively pushed for no parole drug possession jail time penalties. And to me, the most extraordinary aspect of this story is that you might not even have heard of it. The New York Times, CNN, all of the worst offenders in biased journalism have been running dead on this. Can you imagine if footage was circulating about a child of Donald Trump? And it is particularly mind-boggling that no journalists are standing up at the White House and putting the allegations directly to the president. The footage is out there. It is his son. And Joe Biden needs to come forward and explain whether potentially he regrets the hardline stance he has taken on drugs throughout his career. Mandatory sentences with no parole certainly are not progressive policies. But rather than use this story as a way to debate drug possession penalties, the media just ignores it because it hurts Joe Biden. Sometimes you can tell a media's bias in the stories they won't cover. Guilt by omission. Well, Kosha, what are your thoughts on this story? Obviously, the footage hasn't been authenticated at this stage, and so that could be a reason that a lot of media organizations are avoiding it. But given Joe Biden's previous record on drugs, his career stance being extremely tough, you would think that there would be questions asking him to come forward and at the very least dismiss it as not being real.
Yes, I think, this latest hacking by 4chan just sort of corroborates the original, quote, laptop from hell, as it is now infamously known, and the way the media handled that and the way they ran interference, basically, that allowed Joe Biden to completely not have to address that on the campaign trail. And I think the media's handling of that entire thing, Jack, is going to go down in history as a watershed moment in the changing nature of journalism, where at first, it was sort of a collusion or conspiracy of silence between mainstream media, for the most part, with few exceptions, and big tech in suppressing the story in October, like in the lead up to the election, as unverified. They slow walked it basically and said they couldn't verify it, or it was Russian disinformation, the new sort of famous foil for any of these things. Then later on, when even mainstream outlets like the New York Times, like Politico, like the Washington Post finally admitted that it was the evidence was overwhelming to dismiss it as unverifiable, they shifted it to saying it's uninteresting or unimportant, or the problems of the president's son have no bearing on the presidency. Fine, but they completely, shifted that, and I think that's just a dereliction of duty by journalists. And I think, the reason for that is there is a shift in the business model of journalism right now, where we have gone from sort of being a mass media outlet into being very fragmented. We're living in a fragmented landscape of media, and so the people that watch these sort of left-leaning or right-leaning outlets, that is the audience in the echo chamber that they're serving, and so they don't need to question it, or Joe Biden doesn't need to come out and do it, because they're just sort of preaching to the choir, and there's no incentive economically or otherwise for them to do that. So they're just going to continue cycling, or, as you said, omitting certain stories that in the service of the one half of the country or one half of the global audience that they're serving.
Exactly, and it just becomes so tribal, Sophie. I mean, I'd cover it if it was Joe Biden, if it was Donald Trump Jr. That was in the video. I don't see why some of the media are kind of picking and choosing what they think the public will find interesting or important. To me, it is incredibly newsworthy.
Well, Jack, we've unfortunately seen this more and more in the media landscape, particularly in America, where journalists effectively have a dog in the race. They are on a certain team, and most of them appear to be on Team Biden. And when some stories come to light that are negative towards the President Biden, they actually just turn a blind eye and they don't want to report it. And we've seen this repeatedly with President Biden. This protection racket continues, and it actually results in the population, general population, losing faith in the media. We saw a lot of these stories connected to the laptop from hell, as Kosha said, largely ignored. And then they couldn't be pushed out on big tech companies. They were also running a protection racket there. So it's very concerning when we have media effectively putting a big cross over a story and not reporting it, because it's impacting the way they politically think. And I think that is a very dangerous situation we're in. But Joe Biden is blessed. He has the media on his side. I mean, what a great position for him to be in.
Very well said.